Kalachakra succession yoga fulfills, it's basically a succession yoga. It's not the sadhana. It has a lot of things from the sadhana put into it, but it is not the full sadhana in terms of having all the full defining characteristics of the sadhana. It has most of them, so it's pretty okay. In terms of a very good practice that is more extensive than just the generic succession practice. And it follows from the succession practice because the succession practice is basically a way of keeping the 19 closely bonding practices of the 5 Buddha families. What are Buddha families? Buddha families, that word is referring to different aspects of Buddha nature. That's the word. That's what the word means. The family traits. So it's within Buddha nature factors, we have 5 basic ones that are discussed in Anuttara Yoga, although in Kalachakra there's 6, but 5 in general for these 19. And the 5 can be explained in terms of body, speech, mind, good qualities, and enlightening influence or Buddha activities, sometimes translated, like you get in Uttara Tantra, the furthest everlasting stream, with Maitreya's text, Sutra text. Or you can speak just in terms of each of them having 5. The one that's most usual is in terms of the mind. So you have the 5 types of deep awareness, the so-called Buddha wisdoms, mirror-like and equalizing and individualizing and accomplishing and the sphere of reality. Those 5. So, you have these 5 families. So, what you want are these 5 types of family traits taken on many different levels. So, there are different types of practices that you can do that will make the Tibetan word is tamsik or samaya. I translate it as a close bond. People sometimes translate it as a commitment, but that, I think, loses the meaning. It's making a close bond with the thing so that you could actualize it more easily. So, for instance, the equalizing awareness, see everybody is equal, well, when that gets overlaid with grasping for true existence, you don't see everybody as equal, you want to keep it for me, not share with you don't see that everybody wants it as well, so you get miserliness, and so as you get rid of that miserliness, or arrogance, I'm better than everybody else, you don't see the equality, then you practice the 4 types of generosity. By practicing the 4 types of generosity, and this is represented by Ratnasambhava, the 4 types of generosity, that helps you to purify away this miserliness so that you can eventually see the equality of everybody. This type of thing. So you have these 19, and that's basically what the succession practice is all about, is to maintain that close bond by being mindful of these 19 6 times a day. Usually 3 times in the morning, 3 times at night, but it doesn't matter when you do it, actually. Tibetans do it usually 3 in the morning, 3 at night. Okay. Now, in addition to that, and also it has, various things from the 50 stanzas on the Guru that also are pretty good to keep in terms of Tantra, like offering a mandala, these type of things. So it fulfills them as well, and it fulfills some of the Tantric Bodhisattva vows, like to meditate on voidness every day, and this type of stuff. Okay. And you review the vows, which are very important, otherwise you forget them. So it's pretty good to remain mindful of them, to actually recite what all the vows are. Now, what it throws into it, on top of it, is the certain aspects from the sadhana. Sadhana is a way to actualize. It's the word that means a method to actualize yourself as a Buddha figure. That's what a sadhana means. So, you practice doing that. And practicing doing that, well, I don't know that I want to, we don't have so much time. And actually I'm giving a talk on Sunday morning. People have asked me to give a talk to a larger group at 10 in the morning, which is the entrance to the big hall where we're going, which is from where the streetcar stop is, the far end of that big long hall. When you walk in, there's a big empty space to the left, so it'll be there. If anybody has a loudspeaker, that would be an amplifier, that would be great, because although I have a pretty loud voice, I don't know that it can be so effective where there's such a high ceiling. But in any case, there I'll go into it a little bit further. But anyway, let me finish what I'm saying. So, unless it's a specific question about where and when and that sort of thing, Sunday morning at 10.
No, I have two very specific questions.
Okay, so you want to aim for that with Tantra. You practice now that you're able to, that you're at that goal already, and that has to be based on understanding the validity of mentally labeling that you are a Buddha now, based on Buddha nature, with the conviction that, because this is what bodhicitta is all about, what you're aimed at is not Buddhahood in general, it's not the Buddhahood of Shakyamuni. Those aren't things that you can attain. You're aiming at the not yet, at the enlightenment that has not yet happened, but which can happen further down the line of your own mental continuum. That's what you're aiming at. It's not yet happened, though. It's not that it's happening somewhere else. But it can happen based on the fact that we have Buddha nature if you put in all the conditions, the two networks, the positive force, the deep awareness, the bodhicitta, and all this sort of stuff. So you're aiming for, when you're aiming for that, then you imagine that you're that way now. So the Kalachakra succession adds into the basic succession then lots of different things about how to, a lot of preliminaries. So much more stuff for building a positive force. You go through, you do the 10 far-reaching attitudes, the 10 perfections, the 4 ways of helping others, and all this sort of stuff. So you remind yourself of all this stuff to build up positive force. And there's also getting inspiration. It's usually a blessing. Getting inspiration from the teacher, His Holiness, with the taking the empowerment from Kalachakra. Well, what's that all about? That's all about basically activating Buddha nature. That's what empowerment is all about. Because you have these Buddha nature factors, and you want to activate them. So the empowerment activates them. And that's also what you want inspiration for, because that activates, gives a little bit more force to it for than actualizing what you're aiming for. So you add that into it, and you add the much more detail about the building up the network of deep awareness, so focusing on voidness. In the succession practice, the generic one is basically Guhya Samaja. So you have in Guhya Samaja the form of the central figure in different parts of the sadhana. It is called either Vajradhara or Vajrasattva, and so that's what they're called in this thing, and they're visualized in the simple form as in Guhya Samaja. Well, in some commentaries, did some tape recorder just end?
Yes. Yep.
Practice, it says, well, you can add anything. It can be done in the context of any practice. It doesn't have to be done generically, Guhya Samaja. So you can do Yamantika, you can do a Chakra Sambhara, you can do anybody, according to what is the daily practice that you're doing it as part of. And so here we do it in terms of Kalachakra. So then the question is, how do you do the voidness meditation when you arise? To be mindful of voidness. And there are two commentarial traditions to it. One just says, well, instantaneous arisal. Think of voidness and then instantaneous arisal. The commentary that actually comes from Pabonka is that, well, hey, you can do it like in a sadhana and go through the dissolution of, the withdrawal of consciousness from the gross elements and from the different levels of appearance-making of true existence. That's these. It's usually translated as the white, red, and black appearances. and which has to do with the level of subtlety of appearance of true existence that your mind is projecting, and get down to the clear light level. So you can do the voidness meditation in terms of that. So here in the sixth session practice, you do as in the sadhana. You do that type of going down to voidness, generation as the deity, and rather than just as the simple figure, you have the first row of figures around, these Shaktis, these powerful ladies, which have many, many levels of what they represent. And you do the mantra and that sort of stuff, and then you go back to the sixth session, the regular generic sixth session. And you add at the end of it, although it's totally optional, the long prayer at the end of the Kalachakra sadhana, which reviews all the steps of the generation and complete stage of the Kalachakra practice. So that's all it is. That's all it is. Pardon?
It's a beautiful prayer.
Oh, of course, it's a very beautiful prayer. Very, very beautiful prayer.
Alex, this was written contemporarily. It was written by His Holiness, the current His Holiness?
Yeah, you know, I've forgotten who did Ling Rinpoche write it and His Holiness versified, or it was the other way around?
I thought it was the other way.
That Ling Rinpoche wrote it.
No.
His Holiness wrote it,
Yes,
and then Ling Rinpoche versified.
That's my understanding.
Okay, it could be. I just don't
My question
remember it.
kind of also is that, does that mean there wasn't anything before His Holiness wrote it, or did His Holiness work on something similar and changed it, or?
Was there another Kalachakra succession? There was the generic succession, that's for sure. That goes back to the first Panchen Lama, who was the tutor of the fifth Dalai Lama.
No, the Kalachakra succession Guru Yoga. Before His Holiness, the 14th Dalai Lama wrote this.
I have no
there
idea. I
anything
never
similar?
asked His Holiness. I've never come across one. I never asked His Holiness. I have no idea. No idea. Most sadhanas, by the way, are just... Tibetans have no concept of plagiarism being improper. And so even Tsongkhapa plagiarized a tremendous amount from earlier in Lamrim Chemo and these sort of things. You know, plagiarized from the Kadampa Lamrims, because there were some Lamrims in the Kadampa tradition. You don't hear about them very much, but there were. And so this is not seen as anything wrong. This is seen as showing respect to the previous tradition and then just elaborating it more and so on. So there are lots and lots of versions of sadhanas, lots of versions. And what His Holiness always says is that, you know, when one becomes too popularized, so that, you know, people have it on their coffee table and stuff and like that, but then you need something fresh, because what's really important is to treat this as something sacred, and not something which is, you know, a Kalachakra t-shirt that the baby throws up all over. You know, that really lowers the whole thing. How can you have great respect for it? You might as well have a Kalachakra ashtray next or something like that. So you don't want to just vulgarize it. So it has to be something sacred. And that's why you don't want to...
What, a baby throwing up is insane.
You can look at it from the deepest point of view, but from the conventional point of view, it is not respectful. Not respectful.
Depends whose baby.
Yeah.
Anybody's baby is a baby. Let's not lose sight of the conventional truth. Yes.
Come on, there are more important.
More about
We have questions.
yeah.
Let's
So what
go
were your
to
questions?
Thank you.
I just wondered, in the list of offerings, there's something called Gandam, which I'm not familiar with. I just wondered what Gandam
Oh, well, I don't know. I mean, I did this many years ago. There's a mistake. Ganda is the perfume,
Yes.
and actually it's cologne water. It's something that you sprinkle on. It's refreshing as a nice scent. That was repeated twice. That's wrong.
Oh, I see. So it's, the first one is
It should be deleted.
deleted, okay?
Yeah.
And-
I mean, I asked His Holiness specifically. He said, you know, there's a mistake. Printer's mistake. That happens.
And the other question was, could you explain a little bit about what Dala Paramita is, which I see was translated as strength, I think,
Okay.
in one of the earlier prayers?
Okay.
enthusiasm.
No.
What page are you on?
Right. Now, I must say I don't have that instantly fresh in my mind, so now I'm trying to rely on my memory. First of all, the difference between prajna paramita and jnana paramita, between discriminating awareness and deep awareness. Discriminating awareness is just a voidness. Deep awareness is of the two truths inseparably.
Okay.
So that's the difference between those two. Upaya is the skillful means to achieve enlightenment. And pranidhana, the prayers to achieve enlightenment. Bala, if I remember correctly, and I can't give 100% certainty to this, was the strength not to turn away from enlightenment. And then jnana paramita is, the actual, realization of the two truths. The two truths inseparably, not just the deepest truth, which would be prajna paramita.
I see. So Bala paramita is talking about, for instance, people who would turn away from the bodhisattva path to pursue
it's too difficult. This one is, such a pain in the neck that I really don't want to work for this one.
Nirvana.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
The thing that some Mara asked Buddha, to give him Buddha's arm, so he cut off his right arm and gave it to him with his left arm, and he said, I won't accept it because you gave it to me with your left arm because it's dirty. This sort of thing that could be a bit discouraging.
This was, who was this?
Some previous life of the Buddha as a bodhisattva. Somebody did that.
It was one of his
No, it wasn't.
attendants.
Was it Shariputra?
I think so.
Shariputra. One of these people. Anyway, it's just illustrative. It doesn't matter who did it.
What did you say the other was? Sheila and
Oh, these are the These are the 10 far-reaching attitudes or perfections. They're far-reaching in the sense that they take you all the way to enlightenment. That's literally what the Sanskrit and Tibetan means. Because perfection sounds like you have to be perfect, and that's perfection just speaking about the resultant stage, and this is both the path stage and the resultant stage. So dana is generosity, shila is ethical self-discipline, shanti is patience, virya is joyful enthusiasm, perseverance, joyful perseverance. Dhyana is stability of mind. Usually people translate that as concentration, but it's a little bit clearer in Shanti Deva's chapter on it. You're talking about mental stability. That's not going to go up and down because of the disturbing emotions and has concentration in that sense. But it's a little bit broader than just concentration. It's mental stability. And prajna paramita is discriminating awareness of specifically voidness. This is Galupa. And non-Galupa has a slightly different explanation of prajna paramita and jnana paramita, but let's stick with Galupa for the moment. Galupa is radically different from the others. Tsongkhapa is an incredible revolutionary, such incredible courage they have. And he went, don't get me started on Tsongkhapa. He went around to all the monasteries, from all the traditions, because he got these ideas, this understanding, and checked it with everybody from these other explanations, and said, come on, this was not adequate what they were understanding, but he went and he checked it with everybody, the best minds, to see if they could, refute him. And they couldn't. That took a lot of guts.
I think I've made a mistake here. Is Bala Paramita in the...
Right, that's the strength, and I'm not 100% sure that I remember it correctly, but I think it's the strength not to turn back.
Okay, is it yellow and is it in the northeast corner? West corner?
Wait a second.
Okay.
Dhyana, Vira, Shila, Shanti, Dhyana, Prajna, Upaya, Bala. No, Upaya, Pranidhana. Bala is behind you. This is the yellow one.
Behind.
Okay.
Direct. It's not in the corner. It's directly behind
Direct.
It's directed?
Yeah.
you. Directly behind you.
We had that in, may I add?
Yeah.
We had that in Paris. that there was a difference between Kirti sense of Rinpoche and the Namgyal tradition. Okay.
Oh, which one is which?
Well, the
explanation that I was giving is based on Deti Rinpoche's commentary to the sadhana.
Yeah, and some other people, they have a different direction, which means in the northwest.
So which one does
Kirti sense
Rinpoche
follows that?
Right. Well, he's coming from an Amdo lineage,
Yeah.
which seems to be slightly different from what you get in central Tibet.
Yeah, I just want to add that because we had that already, and we just said there are two traditions.
As I was saying with the difference between the different college textbooks within the Gelugpa monasteries, you don't ask specifically what lineage it is. Within Gelugpa, you can get different answers on the same question from different masters. Very confusing. Different lineages.
And all okay.
And all of them are okay. All are okay. All of them lead to valid experience. But the fact that there's diversity allows for Buddhism not to be dogmatic. So you're going to have debates. Very good. Benefit. Advantage.
Right, it keeps the mind active as opposed to
Just dogma. Just, memorize it, and this is the way it is.
I noticed that Vishumata.
Yeah. Gee, that slight little piece of blue is really nice. And it's very different to draw. 4 faces, 2-dimensionally. That's not easy to draw.
Alex?
Especially when one's supposed to be behind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you are aware how easy it is to remember all these faces. And they're the same colors as the directions of the mandala. Both hers and, both the two figures, the male and female figure, their faces are the same color as the direction that those faces are facing.
Alex? May I?
So the front face would be
There is a special Kalachakra mandala being offered, which is different from the common 37 heaps mandala, or the 23 heaps mandala.
Right, that's according to the Kalachakra description of the universe.
Could you just elaborate a little bit on that? Okay.
How many years do you have?
The description of the universe is different in Kalachakra from the description in Abhidharma. And the details are very elaborate. And His Holiness has often said that it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Because he said that if it's more comfortable to offer a globe of the earth or a model of the universe according to how science does it, that's okay. The fact that Buddha taught 2 different systems shows that neither of them is to be taken literally. It's only if something appears over and over again. This Dharmakirti says, how do you know? This is a big topic in Buddhism. How do you know that it's interpretable or definitive? Did Buddha really mean that, or was he just saying it because people who gave him lunch couldn't understand something different? So he wanted to teach them something that fit into. He didn't want to freak them out completely, so he taught them something that they could understand. So it's interpretable. So Dharmakirti says, pardon my irreverence, but. I think you have to put it into real terms of what actually happened. So Dharmakirti says, well, if it appears over and over and over again, and almost everywhere, like the 3 jewels of refuge, or karma, or get out of samsara, these type of things, then the Buddha really meant it. But if it's Abhidharma type of thing, and I've always made a big thing out of this. I think it was on the first day. To stick to it, doesn't really matter. Now, what is the This is an interesting point. His Holiness didn't elaborate on it. He's elaborated on other occasions. Is that the description of the universe in Guhya Samaja, and much more specifically in Kalachakra, is intended to show a parallel between the macrocosm and the the shape and proportions of the universe with the shape and proportions of the body, and then you have the same shape and proportions of the mandala and the same shape and proportions of the body of the figure. So bring everything into meditation and see, that helps you to understand that, the false appearance of it all is, the same type of false appearance of everything, and you can purify everything. So it's done like that. So it's for a different purpose. Abhidharma purpose is, Abhidharma is to develop, if you look at the three baskets, to develop discriminating awareness, so you work with categories and complex systems and many variables and so on. It trains the mind to become analytic. So in this said, neither of the systems was designed to navigate a ship to the moon. So the Western, or navigate a boat on the ocean. So you have the Western description, and the Western description is revised every 10 or 20 years, so you can't say that any of them is, absolutely, that's the way that it is. So it's functional, or function. So this is interesting that His Holiness now is saying very strongly this thing about when does conception, when does the mental continuum enter the physical basis?
Right.
And you were present at far more of the science conferences than I was. But the physical basis has to be sufficiently developed to support mental activity. Now, how do you define? What are the defining characteristics of mental activity? Again, I think you have to bring prasanga into here. It's made up by what definition you want to get.